guys, this is Michelle Kane with Michelle Kane Photography and Actions, and for this video tutorial we're going to look at taking this picture, which is very cool in tone yet very pretty, and give it more color, more richness, and a little bit more excitement. This picture comes graciously from Suzanne Henderson of SJH Photography, so thank you to her for letting us use this picture to do the tutorial. The action sets that we're going to be working from are mainly the Heart and Soul action set and the Botanical Blends. Now, let me preface this tutorial by saying that there are so many different ways that you could go about getting a richer, sharper, more colorful edit on your pictures. This is just going to be one way that we can go about it. And we're also going to look at toning the picture in different ways to give it different effects and to see how tones, especially from the Botanical Blend set, will change the look and the feel of a picture. So to begin with on this image, what we want to do is basically take all the greenery and this reddish, whatever this thing is over here in the background, it looks like a train car or something maybe, and bring out the color, obviously bring out the color in her hair, sharpen up and liven up her eyes, and also give a little bit more richness to her skin. This has a very cool tone overall on the picture, which when you're dealing with somebody with pale skin, it seems to make their skin feel even more pale if it's not warmed up and darkened a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do to get some color to fix the white balance issue is use a couple of actions from the Botanical Blend set. Now, most of the actions and the tones, well, all of the actions in the tones section here are going to be just that. They're tones. They give a color variation and sometimes a lightness or haze variation to the picture. But there's a couple in here that work exceptionally well for warming up cool images. And the first one is going to be cinnamon. Now you can always take a picture like this into ACR or Lightroom and warm it up there with the white balance adjusters. That's totally fine. If you want to do it this way through Photoshop and Actions, this is how we're going to do it. So I'm going to pick cinnamon and hit play. And when it plays, I'm going to amp that from 60 to about 70%. Just take the whole opacity of that action and lift it up just a little bit. And right there is giving it a lot of warm color that it just didn't have before. And when I'm talking about color tone and I'm thinking about where I want my balance, color balance to be and white balance to be for the picture, I'm primarily looking at the skin. I don't get too concerned about what the white balance is going on in the background. The skin tone is what we need to look good. So cinnamon, that did a really good job of warming things up. Now I want to warm it up and pop it just a little bit at the same time. So the other action from the Botanical Blends will be citronella. And we'll hit play. And once that plays, we can see if we turn it off and on, it definitely gave it a pop. It brightened up her skin a little bit, which is actually counterintuitive and not really what we want to be doing. I want to darken her skin down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is open up Citronella, just click the arrow here on the action, and I'm going to take this Brighten Citronella off, and right there it darkens it down just a little bit. And then I'll close up this action grouping, and it plays at 70% opacity, but that's a little much, so I'm going to drop this down to about half, maybe somewhere about the 35% range here. So now if we look at the background, very cool. This is what we started with here, very bluish tones in her skin, and now going back to just the two toning actions here that have added the warmth into the picture. This, if you like a very simple edit, just because it was photographed very clean and nicely, this could be a finished edit. Two tones just to change the coloring a little bit and make the white balance right, and you could be done. We're going to keep going, and just keep in mind editing and creating a look for a picture is totally subjective. So whatever you as a photographer think is enough color, stop there. You know, you don't have to go as rich as I might show in this particular video, but know that the steps and the process is going to be explained, and then you can change your opacities, amp them up or lower them to create the amount of color that you want in your picture. So going from here, I want to give a little bit of punch and sharpness to this picture. So again, going back to the botanical blends, I'm going to play an action called Define Global, and that means I want this actual action to play globally over the entire picture rather than painting it in with a layer mask. So Define Global, and I'll hit play. And it's going to let us know to go ahead and brush it off with a brush wherever we don't want it. Now, this is pretty intense here. I'm not going to play this at 100% like it does now. I'm going to drop it down, and you could drop it down to nothing and then inch it up until you see the look that you're looking for. And the look I'm looking for is about 45%. And then I'm going to open up the global action, and I'm going to turn on the Define Darken just by clicking the eye on. So that darkens it up a little bit, and now we don't have such a bright skin tone going on. So let's close that action grouping down, and if there's any place that we see that we need to remove this, like for instance her eye right here just got really dark once I played Define, and I think I want to remove just a little bit of that, so I'm going to zoom in on her eye, and we'll just use the layer mask that's attached to the Define Global action and grab a brush, and I need a black one for the white mask. So just a 20% opacity brush. I'm going to slowly take some of this Define Global out so we just don't have too dark of an eye over here. It's okay if it's a little shadowed because that's just how it was shot. We just want to take a little out without taking the whole thing out. If I take too much out, I can take the brush back to white and bring it back in. From there, what I want to do is give a richness in color and a softness to the picture. So another action in the Botanical Blend set is called Buttery Blur, and there's 3 sets of blur within this particular action. So we'll hit play, and it'll run through here in just a second. And when it's done, we have a very soft, a little bit richer looking kind of picture. It just feels a little bit velvety and creamy and smooth. That's not going to work for eyes. You know, anytime you add blur, you really want to keep it off the eyes. If you want to open this set up, this Buttery Blur set up, and go in and, you know, adjust the light blur or the boosted or the rich blur, you can certainly click those layers and change the individual opacities there. I'm going to leave them as they play here, and then we're going to just take this layer mask and again grab a black brush, and I'll zoom into her eyes once again, and I'm going to be removing this with a 20% opacity brush, just slowly building up those brush strokes to take this Buttery Blur off of the eyes so that they stay nice and sharp. Amped up my brush to about 50%. If there's anywhere else that I want to take this sharp or this smooth creamy blur off of, I can certainly do that, and I can just go around the picture and just with my black brush cover it up a little bit. So I'm going to click this on and off, and you can see that it definitely added a real softness to the picture. If we want to drop that down just a little bit, we can take the whole Buttery Blur action and just start to decrease the opacity of it until we see what we like. So about 80% maybe on this picture looks about where I want it to be. So let's go back to the beginning again. We've run 4 actions, and we started here, and here's what we've got so far. And I think we'll just keep going. I want to play up her eyes because when you've got these beautiful bluish green eyes up against this red hair, it's just such a nice contrast that we really want those to pop. And she's got a lot of definition going on in here, but we just need to bring that out a little bit more. So now going from the Botanical Blends, we're going to go up to the Heart and Soul set. And in there we've got a whole section of digital makeup, and inside there we've got one called Glisten, and I think that's the one we're going to go with here. This is going to give us some bright clarity, and we'll hit play, and hitting continue, it tells us to go ahead and paint in Glisten where we want. So Glisten is going to work really well for eyes and teeth and jewelry and things like that that you want to kind of brighten up and give a little bit of clarity to. So I'm going to grab again a white brush because I need to paint this in on my black layer mask here, and I think I'll go with about a 40% opacity brush. So I just hit the 4 key on my keyboard, and I'm just going to go over basically the iris of her eye. Now this spot right here where her makeup is really shiny, I kind of want to avoid that because I don't want that to get any brighter or sharper looking and look insane. So we'll avoid that, and I'll go in over here on this eye and give it a little boost. If you go too far, just take your black brush, it was white, turn it to black, just hitting X on the keyboard and remove it. Alright, let's click this on and off so we can see the difference in her eyes, just how much more pow they have. They're just a lot more in your face and dramatic. The other action I want to use for her eyes, just to give them a little bit more pop, will be eye excitement, and that is also in the digital makeup group here. And we'll hit play, and once that plays, again we have to brush it in where we want it. So I've got this 20% opacity brush and a white brush, and I'm just going to start to paint this in over her eyes. Now I will warn you, eye excitement seems to work really well for light colored eyes, blue, green, hazel, that kind of thing. It won't have the same sort of effect on brown eyes as it does on the light colored eyes. So once we paint that in, we really need to back out and look at it in comparison to the whole picture. And if it looks like too much, you can always, brush it out with the opposite color brush back to black so it covers up the effect. Or you can take the whole layer, the action itself, and drop down the opacity. So maybe eye excitement's too much, we can drop it down and then start to raise it slowly until it looks like the right amount, maybe somewhere about 79–80%, and that looks a lot better. I'm going to zoom in one more time on her eyes so we can really look and see how these two actions affected the eyes. So here's with nothing on the eyes, then we turn on Glisten, then we turn on eye excitement, and we've got a lot more vivacious, sharp, piercing kind of eyes. The next thing that I want to do, which I do probably on 95% of my pictures, is just add a little bit of color into the face with the cheeks and the lips. And I like to run an action from the Heart and Soul also, and it is called Rosy Cheeks and Lips. And basically we're going to paint this in again. I'm going to grab a 10% opacity brush, and with a white brush there on the layer mask, I'm just painting this little bit of rosy color onto her cheeks and lips. And if I go too far, I will take the black brush and remove what I just added because I don't want her to look like a clown. I just want her to have a little bit of color. Zoom that out, and I'll be able to kind of look at it in comparison to the whole picture. So before, no coloring on her cheeks. Now she's got a little rosy. Let's drop that opacity down just a little bit so it's not overwhelming. Okay, now she's very pale. We could leave her very, very white like this, or I want to come in here in this case and I want to darken her skin up just a little bit. And really all I need to do is a little DIY dark. So I'm going to hit that from the Heart and Soul set as well. And it's going to allow me to paint that darkness in. And all this custom painting here with these brushes and layer masks, that's really what gives your picture a custom edit. You know, a lot of people want to just run an action and not have to adjust anything and just call it good and expect magic to happen, and that really isn't the case most of the time. You really do need to come in and custom paint, custom add effects in where you want them, and the use of layer masks is really just the way to do that. So this DIY dark, I'm just painting it in a very low opacity just over certain parts of her skin, a little bit on her hair, so we bring a little bit more detail back and she's just not like pasty white in here. Let's click this on and off so we can see how it's darkened things up a little bit. If I didn't want to darken her hair and I thought, oh, I shouldn't have gone up in here and darkened it up, I can just grab my black brush, and now I'm going to cover up that DIY dark, and now I've got this brightness back into her hair. So again, the DIY dark just gave her a little bit more detail. So watch that. If skin gets too bright or if skin gets too dark, DIY dark for the bright skin, DIY light for the dark skin. From there, let's just go ahead and click the before and the after again. So here's where we started. Pretty picture, but way, way, way cool. Just needed some pop. And now in a few steps, it's created this very warm, colorful picture. Now at this point, if you want to back out the color just a little bit, you can certainly go back into the Buttery Blur, which is really what gave us that color, and drop it down and just start to reduce it until you see, you know, the amount of color or brightness that you like. I liked it where it was at 80%, so I'm going to keep that. From this point, we could be done. This could be a total edit, a very nice colorful edit. Just want to show you a couple other little things using the Botanical Blends tones of ways that you could just finish it off a little bit. If you wanted an overall sharpen, you could certainly run a sharpening action to just make this feel a little sharper and crisper. I don't particularly want that on this picture, but that's something you could do. If you liked the red that's going on over here with this car, this box car behind her, you could play that up. Now you're going to be looking for tones that play up the red. So the tone in the Botanical Blends that does that would be cedarwood. So let's play cedarwood. And once it plays at its finished opacity of 70%, it's obviously insane on the entire picture and something that we wouldn't want to keep everywhere. But we've got this white layer mask. Let's just invert it to cover up the cedarwood. So Command or Control I will do that. Or again, if you're in your masks palette here, you could also go to invert, and that will invert your layer mask back and forth. So now we can paint that red tone into the box card just where we want it. So black layer mask, I'm going to grab a white brush and about a 20% opacity brush and just start to paint this in. Now this is just obviously again one option you have for intensifying color, for toning pictures. It's all in how rich and how dramatic you want to go with your color. If you're not a dramatic color person, then this wouldn't be a step you'd want to take. If we click this on and off, you can see how it really gave that red in the picture some pop. Put it over her hair a little bit and a little bit in this left bottom corner. Let's click that eyeball off on cedarwood so that we can try something different. Another one that I really like at different opacities is bamboo. We're going to hit play. And this bamboo has a lot of different layers inside of the entire set, so I really encourage you to go in here and look at the layers inside of bamboo and click them on and off, see what you like, see what you don't like. Maybe you don't like the sweet tones, maybe you don't like the golden bamboo and you want, you know, to warm it up a little bit. Click those on and off. Maybe the boost is too much, maybe you like it something like that. And actually I kind of like that. Now that we take the boost down, let's go ahead and close bamboo in its entire grouping here. And once again, invert it, Command or Control I, and start to paint in bamboo with like a 20% opacity brush, maybe 40% opacity brush here, just around the edges, and we'll give it kind of that hazy, creamy kind of feel to it. I can just sweep it across her skin a couple times. I don't want it on there too heavy, but just a couple times. And now let's look at what bamboo on and off has done for the picture. If you don't like it, how you've painted it, you could always delete everything you did on this mask. Command or Control Delete will clear out the painting that you've done on a mask, and now you could just paint it in over her. Maybe you just like it on her, but not on the edges of the picture. You can really customize actions just how you paint them in. So let's turn off bamboo and let's try one last thing. Just maybe playing up the warmth in the sky so it feels like there's a real warm kind of sun coming down on her. An action we could play for that would be Sunflower. And when Sunflower plays, it's very yellow and hazy over the whole picture, but we're just looking to put this hazy yellow tone just kind of over here in the upper left. So invert it once again. I'm just going to hit the invert button on my masks palette, and now I'm going to paint this in with a white brush. maybe about 40% opacity, and just kind of bring it up above her and kind of around her where it feels like this light is really just bouncing in on the top of her head. If I get it on her skin, I just get my black brush and remove it off the skin a little bit. There's another option. Maybe we like sunflower and we like cedarwood together. We'll turn cedarwood back on, and maybe those are the two combinations that, you know, work for this picture. So again, it's all about experimenting. I can't stress that enough. There's just so many combinations that you could come up with. The tones seriously make all the difference in the world. I love to do my pictures with tones. So many people just live by like a curves and a levels and a contrast boost, and then they feel like something's missing from the picture, and really it could be just a tone. It could be just a little bit of haze that's missing. Experiment with those and see what you can come up with that matches your style. And let's look back real quick at the beginning. There's where we started. Here's where we ended. Again, the amount of color, the saturation of color, it's all about what you prefer as a photographer. So as you go along the steps, you maybe have a lower opacity on those actions such as Buttery Blur and Define, those ones that actually give a pop to the picture. Just go a little less on. If you like it even more colorful, go to town and amp up the color all you want. I hope you have found this helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you find these tutorials helpful, I'd love to know if you've got something else in mind that you'd like to learn about, particular look that you're looking for. There's a little link on the sidebar of my blog that you can suggest tutorials. I'm happy to entertain any suggestions, and I just need to know what you want to learn. Thanks for watching, guys. You can learn more about the Photoshop actions at my website, michelleKanePhotography.com. Today we featured the Heart and Soul and the Botanical Blends actions. Thanks so much, guys, and have a blessed day.